Hi, this is JD Wisgo from self-taught-japanese.com, and this is TransLiterary Lab number 4. I spoke about it in some of the previous episodes, but just to give a quick summary, TransLiterary Lab is about taking a short fiction passage, of course in Japanese, and taking it and kind of analyzing it, researching to understand the meaning, and then basically making a rough draft of the translation into Japanese. And part of this is kind of targeting beginning translators or anybody who's interested in translation, although of course anyone's welcome to watch. And we'll try to get a little bit of polishing on the translation. We won't necessarily get to something that's really publishable, but we'll try to get it, past the first iteration. So in this episode 4, I'm going to be continuing from episode 3 and going over Natsume Soseki's Yumeno. Okay, hajimaru zo. So basically, this is the page on Aozora Bunko where we have Yumeno from Natsume Soseki. And what I had done previously in episode 3 is I'd taken that and basically cut and paste this here, cleaned up some of the furigana, and I went up to the middle of the second paragraph. And basically in episode 3, we kind of went through the understanding, a little bit of analysis and research and translation to get to this point here. So basically up to the middle of the second paragraph. So what I want to do this time is kind of go through that and see if there's any other refinement we can do. And then I want to continue with the second half of the second paragraph, which I've already just prepared in terms of the furigana. And then we'll try to translate that and then try to clean everything up and see what kind of a result we can end with. All right, cool. So let's just go over the English, and I'll keep these sentences separate now, but we may put them together at the end if we have time. Okay, and I'll just read the English. And again, if you want to see the details of this, please check episode 3, the one before this. I had this kind of dream. Okay, that sounds pretty good. One thing I was thinking is I could instead say something like, one day I had a dream. Okay, now this is literally close, but to be honest, now that I'm reading it about a week later or after a week, more than a week has passed since I did the last episode 3. I'm feeling this is a little bit unnatural. I mean, it definitely matches, the meaning literally, but it just sounds a little bit unnatural to me. So let's kind of replace it with this, and at the end we'll see how it sounds when we put everything together. One day I had a dream. Definitely sounds better to me. Now the one day, of course, that is not directly in the text, but we're not really hurting. We're not adding any major meaning that's not in the original sentence, at least in terms of the nuance. All right. When I was sitting down beside the bed, arms crossed, the woman laying down on the bed, face up, whispered, "I'm dying." Okay, seems okay. Let me double check. When I was sitting down beside the bed, arms crossed. Now, one minor thing here I'm noticing is that when you have, I forgot what they call it, but basically an optional clause that's kind of injected in here via commas, typically you want this to modify the thing that comes right before it. And here, we're basically modifying the bed. So some people might strictly say, you should switch the word order. And that's one thing that might be a good idea. I'm not going to get to that level here, but that's just one thing I want to point out. The woman laying down on the bed, face up, whispered, "I'm dying." And also the order of face up here, laying face up. Let's try this. Now this, to me, laying down, now we have the contrast between down and up, and it just sounds awkward. So let's try laying face up on the bed, right? And I think this actually feels a little bit better. The woman laying face up on the bed whispered, "I'm dying." Okay, it's a little cleaner. Let's move on. The woman laid out her long hair upon the pillow and then placed her oval, soft-featured face upon that. Okay, I feel a little bit of awkwardness here. Face her ovular, face her oval, soft features face. We could say soft, oval, shaped faced. That's another way to do it. We'll leave this. I'm not super satisfied with it, but I think it's good enough to move on. And there's no really obvious refinement that I'm seeing that's going to clean it up really nicely. But it might be okay. Let's move on. At the base of her pure white cheeks was a healthy tinge of warm blood. And of course her lips were red. Now one thing I noticed here is that I used a hyphen here, and I don't think this is correct. So again, if you ever want to double check, you can of course Google. And it's not always give you 100% of what's correct, because you can have a lot of people using incorrect usages. Now for some reason it's giving me images. Let's go back to, okay. So I mean, we can say here pure white. One other thing you can do is kind of make it a little more specific. to just see actual examples. So pure white here, and I'm not seeing any hyphens in any of these here. And I mean, just from grammar principles, I don't think you typically would need a hyphen here. So it would be a good idea just to actually follow up on the grammar here. But just from looking at the examples and from my understanding of grammar, it's probably not needed. So let's take that out. Her pure white cheeks was a healthy tinge of warm blood. And of course, her lips were red. Another thing I thought about this is this, of course, to me, it kind of, the flow just feels a little bit awkward. So another way to do where, of course, is to do this. Now, we want to be careful we don't have too many commas. The original Japanese passages do have a lot of commas, at least the ones we went over. But that doesn't mean we necessarily want to emulate that. So in this case, I don't think it's that bad. And I like the feel actually much better of this here. And her lips were, of course, red. I like the feel, the punctuation, the way that kind of breaks up the flow. And it just sounds, it feels better to me. So let's see what you think when you read it. But moving on, she did not look at all as if she was about to die. Okay, that seems okay. Again, I feel like it might be possible to clean the wording up a little bit here, but it's pretty good. But she clearly had said in a soft voice, "I'm dying." And again, this in a soft voice, if you remember, I took this from Shizukana Koe. We could probably clean this up in terms of had said softly, had whispered, something like that. But I kind of like just the extra dramatic feeling of this in a soft voice in this little phrase here. And finally, and I myself thought that she would certainly, or let me reread that. And I myself thought that she certainly would die. So the thing about this is this and, I mean, last time I did this, I was saying, I acknowledge that and is generally a bad idea, but sometimes it's okay. But now that I'm reading through this again, I kind of stumble over that. It's feeling a little awkward. So what I could do is, let's try even. Even I myself thought that she would certainly die. So this is just another variation. It's kind of emphasizing the even is basically kind of giving extra strong feeling to this mo here, kind of trying to represent that. And I mean, myself, this doesn't technically include a mo, right? I myself would be like jibun jishin. And so the concept of a mo, which could be represented as also or, to, too, something like that. But I like using even, at least, especially in literary scenarios, it has a better feel. You don't want to overuse it. So let's see how this sounds. Even I myself thought that she would certainly die. Now you notice I just read this in a different order. Now I'm going to put it in the order I just read it in because that flow is coming more natural to me. Even I myself thought that she would certainly die. Okay, so that's a little bit cleaner. So now let's move on. Try to finish up at least the second paragraph here. So as usual, I cut and paste this from the original text, which we would call the Genbun, by the way. Took it from the Genbun. And I basically broke it out into sentences, so it's easier to translate and analyze. And the furigana, in case you haven't seen the other episodes, it basically starts like this, where it's all kind of stuck together. So I went through and before this episode was recorded, I put this in just to clean it up. That's all though. So I'm going to go ahead and read a sentence at a time, and then we'll try to understand it, and then we'll go ahead and try to translate it. All right. そこで、そうかね、もう死ぬのかね、と上から覗き込むようにして聞いてみた. All right, cool. So we got a lot of commas, which is making it a little bit easier to digest. Now, just some basic Japanese grammar. Remember, when you have a to here, one of the main ways it's used is as sort of quotes, right? Now, there's no actual quotes. You could have quotes, which is like the Japanese brackets. Let me show you just what I mean, just for comparison. So this here, I'm using the left and right bracket. You could do this, and actually you could put the stuff to in brackets, right? And I can just add that now just to show you basically what it means. So this to here, and it's a little confusing, right? Because there's a bunch of commas here, and you wonder, are they part of the dialogue? Just from the feel of that, I would say that actually this is included. Now, again, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, this would be my guess. Even though there's, a comma here, inside and outside, this would be my guess. So let's kind of deal with it that way. Although we can come back and double check later. So Sokode, right? Literally, soko means there, sokode is there. And this is literally translated to something like at that point, which kind of means and then, right? It's a way to kind of promote, basically like a sorede, right? To kind of make the flow a little bit better, right? At that point. So we don't necessarily have to translate it literally, and it doesn't have anything to do with there as a place. It's more of at that point in time, right? Even though it doesn't say that. So now we have this so kane, mo shinu no kane. Now the other way I can tell that this is part of the dialogue is this kane is used twice, right? So this person is clearly speaking both of these things together because there's a parallel structure of this kane. And just, you probably already know, but the kane or kana is kind of like a I wonder. Typically, so kana would be used at least a little more commonly in my experience. But anyway, this is totally a valid way to do it. And again, it's somebody wondering. They don't necessarily feel really, they don't feel strongly about something, or they're just kind of wavering, or it's a possibility. So it's like, yeah, I wonder if I will die, right? And this sokane, it's just sort of like a aizuchi, right? It's just acknowledgement, or it's just like, oh yeah, that type of thing. It doesn't have a deep meaning. So, all right, at that point, oh yeah, I guess maybe I'll die, right? Something like that. And this mo is just like, already that type of feel. Like at this point, I'll die, right? Or I'm going to be dying soon. Or I might die soon. That kind of feeling. So this to, again, is what did the quoting. Right, ue kara nozokikomu. Right, now nozoku is somebody who kind of like peeps. They're kind of looking in a certain area. And let's see if there's a better word. I think peep is a good rough translation. Now there's a different nozoku with different kanji, which just came up, which is not it. This is the one. Look, peep, look into a while. So it could have a feeling of somebody who's kind of like doing something looking at something they shouldn't be looking at. But in this case, I mean, they're in the same room, and he's not. No, I shouldn't say he. The main character is not being secretive. So he's just kind of gazing down, would be one way to say it. Now this komu is kind of a postfix, or I should say a suffix, that's used after a lot of words. And the nuance is a little tricky, but it's basically kind of to do something, I would say in a thorough way, or in an exaggerated way. Right? And it may depend on the word. But in this case, if we look at nozoki komu, right, again, it's the same as nozoku. So according to this. And to me, the feeling is a little stronger. Here we have kubi o nobasu you ni shite naka no mono o miru, right? So this is like extend your neck and look at something inside of something, right? And here the example is hei no naka o nozoki komu. So, right, it's pretty similar to nozoku, right? So basically, he or the main character. I'll call him he. I don't know for a fact it's a he. Nozoki komu you ni shite kiite mita, right? So at this point, I'll just start translating this, all right? We'll just say then. Now, another thing to notice is the mita here. Again, if you remember from your expression, there's a Japanese pattern, right? Which is like a te miru, which is to do something and see literally, but it means to try it, right? And it doesn't necessarily translate into English all the time. Sometimes you can try to reflect it as with a try, or sometimes you can just take it out. Typically, that's used without kanji, at least in modern Japanese, but sometimes you will see it with a kanji on the miru, in this case, the past tense, which is mita. All right, so now we have, then, and of course, what is being quoted here, the to, what does this apply to? It's the verb kiku, right? This is the te form of kiku, which is to listen or to ask. In this case, it's clearly ask, right? And then this, while we're talking about grammar, this is yonishite, which is to do as if, right? So, I mean, basically, they're not necessarily actively trying to, extend their neck, peek down, but as a result of, the way they're asking, they kind of end up peeking from above. So let's just say, right, then I asked, right? I'll just take out the tried part for now. Then I asked, oh yeah, I guess you might die soon, right? Then I asked, let's kind of fit this in. I'm trying to fit in the word order here, right? Then I asked, peering down from above. So this is one way. Now let's see how natural this sounds. Then I asked, peering down from above. I think it's good enough for now. Maybe we'll come back to it. We will come back to it, hopefully, and try to clean it up, maybe. Double check. But I think it's a good first iteration at this. Moving on. 死にますともと言いながら女はパッチリと目を開けた. All right. So shinimasu. Now notice she's speaking in the desmasu form. So that could be an important nuance. Although for the sake of our translation, it may not reflect too much, but let's just keep that in mind. All right. Tomo is sort of a particle combination that's used as a suffix, and in this context, it typically means like of course and like yeah, sure I will. That kind of thing. So it's kind of like yeah, of course I will would be one. So I'm gonna probably use a similar way to translate that. Now, she's now the onawa is of course this other the girl who's I guess in the same room as the main character, right? And while we're looking at the meanings, pachiri I think is like open widely, that kind of thing. But let's just see: stare at, wide open, big round eyes. Okay, so it's wide, right? So she opens her eyes. Nagara is while. All right, so she's saying this as she opens her eyes wide. Let's see how we can make that sound a little bit better, all right? So, of course, I'm going to die, right? And I want to keep this simple because you notice her phrase here is relatively simple. It doesn't have a lot of words. It's pretty quick. Of course, I'm going to die. I could say I am, maybe to try to represent the desmasu form, but I like this. I want to keep it relatively short. I'm going to die. Now, okay, she said, let's see. She said, eyes wide open. Okay, so let's see. Now this, of course, is not a literal match. It's not perfectly literal because this inagara is, as she said this, she opened up her eyes. So I may want to change this a little bit to try to make it literally more close. So this kind of sounds like, well, I mean, the implication is that she just is opening her eyes, right? Because up until now, it wasn't talking about her eyes being open. So, but what we could do instead, let's think of how to make it a little closer to the literal, right? Literal genbun. She said, eyes opening widely. So it's like kind of more ing. It's happening in the moment, right? She said, eyes opened, and we see if we have any inspiration here. Wide, yeah, nothing. We could do some synonym searching. I mean, one thing I do sometimes is just look at synonyms. Widely, it's not coming, so I could just look at wide, open. Eyes open, wide open. Yeah, there's not too much here. Spacious, agape. I don't think that's usually used for eyes. So nothing great is popping out here. And I still like the feel of this better. Right, eyes open wide. So the widely part, it might be a little bit closer literally, but I like this now. So let's move on. Make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, so 大きな潤いのある目で長いまつげに包まれた中はただ一面に真っ黒であった。I think it's 真っ黒, but let me double check the pronunciation. It's makuro. I said makuro, and that actually might be a valid alternate, but we'll just say makuro to keep it technically correct. So, 大きな潤いのある. So, 潤い is basically like a wetness, moisture type thing. We can look that up here. Moisture, right? So, it's basically literally having moisture, right? So, it's eyes that have moisture. And what is the big here? Well, the big is probably not the moisture, right? It's probably applying to the me, right? Which is eye. In this case, it's probably eyes, right? More than one eye. Although, of course, in Japanese, it doesn't usually dictate, plural versus singular, except for a few examples. Excuse me. So, what do we have here? 大きな潤いのある目で. So, and then let's go ahead a little bit further here. 長いまつげに包まれた中は. So, what is this naka talking about? Well, we have the eyes, right? And now we have the matsuge, which is, I think, eyelash. Make sure I don't mix that up. Yeah, eyelash. And now tsutsumareru is basically to be wrapped. Tsutsumu is to wrap, right? So basically inside of what the long eyelashes are wrapping, right? So what are they wrapping? Well, they're probably wrapping the eyes, of course, right? And then tada is, simply or only. And then just ichimen is a word I think we used earlier, but it's kind of like the whole surface, literally. And it was just pure black, right? So we're kind of getting a description of how her eyes look, okay? So, let's see. Now we got to get the grammar flowing well, or get the flow here. So, what we have, let's just try to start maybe in the middle here. Inside of those, inside of her long eyelashes, were large. Now this sounds a little weird, but let's just try it. Large, moist eyes, which now were, this is basically makuro, right, which is literally just pure black, right? Which were now pure. Now this sounds a little awkward. So let's kind of clean it up, but I wanted to get a rough translation. You may not be able to get a great initial translation, even in terms of the flow, but I just want to get something down, right? And try to capture most of the words, at least the basic high-level meaning. So let's read this now. Inside of her long eyelashes, should be were, right? Inside of her long eyelashes were large moist eyes, which were now, again, I like the word order of this. Now this now, of course, isn't literally anywhere, right? I could try to remove it. With large moist eyes, which were pure black. All right, we can try taking it out. Inside of her long eyelashes were large moist eyes, which were pure black. So I don't like the flow that much, to be honest here. This which were, I'm kind of stumbling over it. So what we could do is, I'm going to come back to it, but I just want to finish this last sentence, and then we'll jump back to that. Maybe in my subconscious, I'll be thinking about it while I'm doing this last one. So, その枕の瞳の奥に自分の姿が鮮やかに浮かんでいる. Okay, so makuro, of course, is pure black. So hitomi, I think, is technically pupil, but it basically means the eyes, right? You can see, and this kanji is not that common, by the way. Excuse me, hitomi. Okay, so here, pupil, literally, right? But it basically means eyes. You can see there's expressions with that basically refer to an eye. So we don't typically say pupil in English. I've seen, I think, bad maybe anime translations that use that, but typically you would not use the word pupil, at least in my opinion. So let's just say, and now we have oku, which is like the inner or the depths, which is a word I think might fit really well here. So let's try that. Inside, or in the depths, now I don't necessarily want to use the same wording, pure black. In the empty depth, let's just try empty. In the empty depths of those eyes, right? Now, jibun no sugata. So this literally is my form, or my shape, my appearance. Basically the main character's face, whatever, themselves, right? In the empty depths of those eyes, now we have ukabu, right? Which is kind of like something's floating, or it's kind of rising up. Let's see if there's any floating, swim, occur come to mind. So the one we're looking at now is, I think, more of a 3. The number 3 here, appear, loom, and you can see there's some examples here. But it's basically when something is appearing, right? It's kind of like arawareru or detekuru, it appears, right? And to me, it kind of has the nuance of reflect, like a utsuru maybe. But let's see how we can word this. In the empty depths of those eyes, let's try arose, because this is a pretty close literal match to ukabu or ukandeiru. In the empty depths of those eyes, arose. Now we got azayaka, which is, see if that's not coming to mind clearly. Vividly is probably a good one. Azayaka, let's see how ours. Both clear and vividly here, good. Bright, brilliant, fresh, skillfully brilliant. Okay, so let's just try vividly arose. This sounds a little weird to me, but let's try it again. In the empty depths of those eyes, vividly arose. Now this is a little tricky. Jibun no sugata. Vividly arose an image of myself. So again, I'm not sure if I like the wording here. It feels a little odd. Now, of course, the image isn't literally anywhere in this text, right? So I could also say arose myself, but let's just try this. See how it sounds, okay? In the empty depths of those eyes, arose, let's try it. I don't like vividly here. Arose a vivid image. All right, so this is technically different meaning, right? If you say vividly arose versus a vivid image, I mean, I guess it's almost the same thing. But here we're using vivid to modify as an adjective, right? Whereas before it was used as an adverb. Almost the same thing, but it's grammatically different. In the empty depths of those eyes arose a vivid image of myself. A vivid image of myself. All right, I think that's pretty good. So let's go back to the previous sentence and see if we can clean this up, because I'm still not too satisfied with the second, or the last part of this. Inside of her long eyelashes, inside of her long eyelashes were large moist eyes, which were pure black. Okay? Let's just try to refactor this and do it a totally different way. We'll just kind of start from scratch, okay? Maybe we can try to maintain the word order or the phrase order of the original sentence, right? This would be like her eyes, her large eyes were, now moist, I mean, we'll just say, again, this sounds a little weird, but let's try it. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed a surface of pure black. This sounds, again, a little unnatural. Now let's just compare though. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed the surface of pure black. Yeah, this surface definitely sounds awkward to me. It's enclosed nothing but, right? So this kind of captures the tada part and gets rid of the unnatural surface. And her long eyelashes enclosed nothing but pure black. Okay. And again, we could probably clean it up some more. Now, which do I like better? Let's compare reading them again. Again, reading out loud is really a good way to check if something sounds natural and look for mistakes. Inside of her long eyelashes were large, moist eyes, which were pure black. Yeah, I just keep getting stuck here. The flow just kind of breaks to me, even if it literally is okay. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed nothing but pure black. Yeah, I definitely like that better. The flow is much, much better. Okay, so let's go again through these four, and then we'll try to put everything together and look at the end result. Then I asked, peering down from above, "Oh yeah, I guess you might die soon." "Of course I'm going to die," she said, eyes open wide. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed nothing but pure black. In the empty depths of those eyes arose a vivid image of myself. So I'm starting to like this. One thing I notice is wide, where is it? Large and wide and open. I'm trying to make sure there's not any echoes of the same word used in back-to-back sentences. But I think it's actually looking pretty good. So what I want to do now is, and maybe I should have done some of this before, but I'm going to go ahead and basically take all of these and just put them all together. So this is one paragraph. The second paragraph has a bunch of sentences, right? Some of the sentences from last time. But this shouldn't take too long. At the base, and then we have "she did not look." Okay. And then "she had clearly said." Okay, not too bad. Okay, so, and then we have the other four. I'll put them separately for now, and then I'll join them at the end. Okay, it'll just be easier for me to... Okay. Okay, cool. So, finally, I'm going to join these two. Great. So let's go ahead and read through the whole thing, and we'll see what the end result looks like. One day, I had a dream. When I was sitting down beside the bed, arms crossed, the woman laying face up on the bed whispered, "I'm dying." The woman laid out her long hair upon the pillow, and then placed her oval, soft-featured face upon that. At the base of her pure white cheeks was a healthy tinge of warm blood, and her lips were, of course, red. She did not look at all as if she was about to die, but she clearly had said in a soft voice, "I'm dying." Even I myself thought that she would certainly die. When I asked, peering down from above, "Oh yeah, I guess you might die soon." "Of course I'm going to die," she said, eyes open wide. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed nothing but pure black. In the empty depths of those eyes arose a vivid image of myself. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. There's a few minor things. One thing I do like is the parallel structure here. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed nothing. This, her large eyes and her long eyelashes. And I don't think this was... it was kind of in the original sentence, not quite. But I like that. Now, what I don't like is how we have these two dialogue lines back to back here. Let's try to clean that up. Then I asked, peering down from above, Now, what I could do is, let's see. Oh yeah, I guess you might die soon. Of course, you're going to die. Now, let's see if I can change the word order of some of this. Because I want to separate these two pieces of dialogue. Then I asked, peering down from above. Oh yeah, I guess you might die soon. Of course I'm going to die, she said, eyes open wide. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems strange to have back-to-back dialogue here. Now, one option would be she responded. I could kind of put this here where she responded. I could just take this whole part and actually just put it in the front. Let's try this out. Let's just see how this looks. Now, I'm going to change this to respond because it sounds better. It's not literally in the original text, but let's just see how this sounds. So if we start here, then I asked, peering down from above, oh yeah, I guess you might die soon. She responded, eyes open wide. Of course I'm going to die. I'll clean this up here. Her large eyes were moist, and her long eyelashes enclosed nothing but pure black. In the empty depths of those eyes arose a vivid image of myself. So I think we're pretty good for this time. But one thing I was thinking of, it would be interesting to get a little creative here and do something like nothing but seas of black, right? That would be a little extreme. But it's an interesting idea, seas of pure black. It's just kind of a metaphor there because we're going to be talking about depths in the next sentence. And depth is also something associated with the sea. But keep in mind, the idea of the sea is not really anywhere in this original text, right? So we got to be careful. We don't necessarily want to add too much, of our own personal, it's a judgment call, right? I'm not going to say it's wrong or right, but you want to be very careful about it. So we'll keep this for now. Okay, so I think that pretty much finishes. Just as a quick final note, I just wanted to give a brief advertisement for my new book that just came out, I guess in the last week or two. It's called The Spirit Drum by the author Kyusaku Yumeno, and it's available on Amazon, and you can get the full Japanese text available online too. So for those of you who want to compare, it's a good exercise. It is pretty advanced, and I put the link to this book in the YouTube description down below. And the book is basically a novella, which is about a cursed drum that impacts several families over a generation, actually over 3 generations in 100 years. So it's kind of an interesting story, and I like the way it was told, so I thought it would be cool to translate. Okay, that concludes today's episode. Thank you for watching.